So we just got our first gameplay trailer for Subnautica 2, so I thought why not do a little breakdown and some speculating on what's been shown to us. The trailer opens with a shot in some kind of base. We're treated to the Altera logo alongside the word cicada. It's not clear as to why this name has been picked, although it could relate to the name of our new planet. Later on in the trailer, it says welcome to
your new home on Caesura.
So I assume that this is the name of our new home outside of 4546b, even if I can't pronounce it. Cicadas make a loud noise by vibrating their bodies, so maybe vibrations could be the key to life on this new world. You'll also notice this version of Altera's logo is different to what we've seen before, so it's possible that this could be a subdivision of the main company. On the right hand side, we see some kind of purple object with the words Sampling Pavilion across the top. I think this probably relates to the DNA splicing that we'll be able to do in Subnautica 2, improving our genetics to better suit the environment. We then get a shot which shows us in some kind of life pod similar to Subnautica 1, descending towards some kind of underwater facility. Not long later, we're treated to a shot from above the water, so it looks like land exploration will be back for Subnautica 2. In this shot, we get a glimpse of a small futuristic axe-looking tool which is used to break some kind of crystal. It will be interesting to see just how much land there is in Subnautica 2. Personally, I preferred the smaller land-based areas of Subnautica 1 compared to the larger areas of Below Zero. Next, we get a shot of what appears to be an abandoned moon pool with a tadpole submarine parked inside. As the barnacles are on the ceiling, floor and walls, and the lights of the submarine are on, it looks like we've been able to drive directly into a sunken base, which is really cool. This also seems to be the first time we've seen an upgrade for the tadpole, adding these strange shark-like fins to its side. Maybe these make the vehicle faster, and just as a fun bit of speculation, I think it would be really cool if these folded down into little wings, as that would look awesome. Although from their position in this shot, I don't think they will. We then get a really interesting shot of a door opening into the vacuum of space, letting us see this interesting looking orange planet. I don't think this is where we're actually going to be playing, as we can see it in the sky later on and there isn't any water, but it does look cool nonetheless. This scene might be taken from the beginning of the game before we reach the planet, but it would be really cool if there was some kind of space-like gameplay. Maybe if you could launch yourself into orbit for a short period of time to place satellites or something. The lore does say that the Seamoth works in space, so it's not completely unthinkable. Although, yeah, I don't think that space gameplay is likely, at least not anywhere near launch. The closeness of this planet in the sky suggests to me that we're playing on a moon rather than a proper planet, but it does make the skybox look really cool. As we head downwards, we see this strange looking creature that appears to be skating across the surface. I say this as when the camera dips below the waves, you can't actually see the tentacles that are sticking out of the bottom of the creature. I really like the translucent look of this, and it's just really nice to see a creature that exists on the surface, as it makes the world feel more real. Whether this is big enough to be a Leviathan, I'm not quite sure. It doesn't look massive, but that could just be the camera. Going below the waves, we get another shot of the new game's peeper, but we've seen that before. I think the really interesting thing here is actually on the left side of the image. To me, this looks like a giant shell, specifically one from the creature we saw in the reveal trailer. It's just a really nice detail, and I hope we see more of it in the actual gameplay. Imagine how cool it would be to see these creatures shedding shells in real time, especially if we had a use for them. We then see these little green fish, which I don't think we've seen before, and these little lovebirds. It will be interesting to find out whether these guys are attached all the time, or if maybe this is some kind of mating ritual. I'd honestly be surprised if the game was that deep, but hey, you never know. The scanner in this scene also appears to have a little radar or heartbeat sensor, as you can see all the little dots showing things around you. This is a nice upgrade and shows how technology in universe has moved on since the original game. We then get to see these two hammerhead creatures smashing into each other, which isn't particularly new, but it's nice to see them do it in game in real time. Next we get to see some base building and co-op gameplay. One of the first things I noticed is that each of these divers has a different coloured suit, so it seems that some basic customization will be in at launch. I also just wanted to point out this creature in the top right of the screen. This is a supersized version of the original Peeper-like creature. It will be interesting to see if this is an adult with the others being juveniles, or if this is a completely different species. Either way, it looks really nice. It doesn't look like an out-and-out predator, but I could see it being a bit grumpy and territorial. In this part of the trailer, we get a better look at a connected base, and it seems quite square, although we do have a curved piece at the top. It seems the original game's more circular design has been replaced with something a bit more blocky. This could be because the Subnautica 2 base building mechanics are going to be a lot more in-depth than its predecessor, so making something blocky customizable is a lot easier than something more circular. That being said, I do like the way these pieces look. They do fit in well. Along the top, we get to see solar panels and these weird antenna looking objects. Maybe these could be used for some kind of sonar system or for communicating over long range if the devs implement proximity chat. We also see these little fan things placed everywhere, and I'm not really sure what these could be for. Maybe to release carbon dioxide dioxide out of the base to keep the air breathable? Who knows? Next we get to see what I think is actually one of the most interesting parts of the trailer. It looks like you can swim directly in and out of your base this time without needing to go through hatches. If any of you ever made any wacky base designs with tons of hatches, you'll know that going through them all was a bit annoying, so I actually really like this. Just how you swim through this and not fall flat on your face when coming out the other side is anyone's guess. Video game logic, I suppose. We then get to see some of the internal lighting of the base, which looks really nice, and the return of the iconic Keep Calm poster from Subnautica 1, which was a nice touch. Next we see the weight makers being constructed at a fabricator. These are actually a different colour during construction, looking more purple, but I like the attention to detail as things do change colour under extreme heat and pressure. We then get a shot of these actually on the player, and they look good. We've seen these before in screenshots, but this is the first time we get an actual proper look. It's an interesting design change from the Sea Glide, but I can get behind it. As our character heads down into a cave, we get a shadowy glimpse of what seems to be a hostile creature. I'm not sure if this is the same one we see later on, or something different. We only get a brief look at its shadow, and it doesn't seem quite the same shape. I could be wrong about this though, so we will have to wait and see. Further down in the cave, we see this strange plant crystal thing, which our character seems to vaporize with some kind of propulsion cannon. I'm not sure if they're trying to remove this because it's dangerous, or if they're collecting it for some purpose, although it looks pretty vaporized to me. It seems this tool can also be used for defense, as we see a friendly face using one to push the shark away from the player. Taking a closer look at this propulsion cannon, it seems to have some kind of heads-up display, but it isn't a radar like what we saw on the scanner, as nothing appears on it as the shark approaches. Maybe this is some kind of status shower, as the player charges up the attack, a wave and dot appears. This could possibly show different levels of charge, but it's hard to say. Maybe you can accidentally overcharge it and blow it up in your hand. The shark itself we have seen before, and it looks just as aggressive as ever. It doesn't look big enough to be a Leviathan, but could fill a role similar to the squid shark in Below Zero. Something not as small as a stalker, but not as big as a reaper, falling into that medium range. I also just wanted to take a quick look at this thing on the floor. I'm not sure if this is a plant or a dead creature, but it looks like it's been infected by some kind of parasite. Could this possibly be the return of the rot nest? Next we get to see what is probably the stalker of Subnautica 2. This creature looks much smaller, but is obviously still hostile. We have seen this before in screenshots, but I think this is the first time we've got a small glimpse of it in game. Either way, it looks like a bite from those teeth would really hurt. Moving forward, we then see this strange robot orb reacting and moving based on the movement of the player. Maybe this could be a form of AI for your sea base, similar to what you have when entering and leaving vehicles in the previous Subnautica games. What this could be used for is anyone's guess. Maybe if creatures can attack your base, it warns you. It could also play some kind of story role. I suppose we'll have to wait and find out. Next we get a brief look at some of the game's co-op features, showing players hanging on to the side of a moving tadpole. This is a nice touch as it will let you and your friends get around the map together without having to make multiple submarines. Just be careful not to take them too close to any enemies, as your friends outside probably aren't as safe as you are. Now, one of the most interesting things we see in the trailer is this heavy-duty dive suit. Maybe this is a piece of equipment needed when going deeper under the water, like how we need to reinforce the hulls of our vehicles when going further down. This could be a really interesting mechanic and has the potential for some awesome jump scares if it makes you slow and clunky and unable to escape quickly. This is probably one of my favourite things in the trailer, so let's hope it's as good as it looks. The final thing we see is the big Kraken Leviathan amongst the ruins of some underwater sea base. The big question here is how realistic is this? A creature this size is going to suffer moving through the environment, so I do wonder if this thing will actually be able to get this close to underwater bases in the actual game. Don't get me wrong, I hope it can, as that would be awesome, but I'm not sure if that's a realistic expectation. We also notice that it has some tentacles around its mouth before we get hit by the classic creature jump scare. Now once again, I'm not actually sure if this is the same creature we were looking at just a few seconds before. This new one has some pink bioluminescence on its head and on its feelers, and that isn't present on the Kraken, unless this is a second mouth that shoots out from inside the Kraken's main body. So that's everything I picked out from the gameplay trailer. Did you notice anything I missed? I know there has been quite a bit of controversy in the last few days around the development of Subnautica 2, but I thought I owed it to the hardworking devs to cover this trailer, as at the end of the day, they've poured their hearts and souls into making this game, and I'm sure they're even more devastated about the news from the last few days than we are. It's honestly such a shame, as the trailer makes the game look a lot of fun, but I can't get away from the fact that releasing it on the same day the news broke about the $250 million development scandal feels like a distraction technique. Let's at least hope that the delay until 2026 makes Subnautica even better than it would have been before, even if it can be quite hard to stay positive at the moment. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. And special thanks to my patrons, Mathijs, Graham DeLoye, Baron Windy and Immortal for making this video possible.